We turn next to Bob Grover. Hi, Bob. Nominated by the College of Agricultural Sciences, Bob Grover, your business, Pacific Landscape Management, is the Northwest leader in the sustainable landscaping industry. Can you talk about how your volunteer work with OSU's Department of Horticulture and the Revitalize Portland Coalition influences you as a leader and supports your efforts to create a more sustainable future?
Yes, thank you. I tell you, it's been really exciting to watch the landscape profession change throughout my career. When I started, it was really all about beautification, and that has really changed to focus on environmental enhancement and protection. However, sustainable movement is a double-edged sword in landscaping. While landscaping is inherently one of the most environmentally positive parts of urban environments, many of the traditional maintenance tools and systems can be problematic. We all need to understand that there are trade-offs and change that we need to do to achieve true sustainability. Many people oversimplify sustainability or treat it as a religion. I think sustainability is a three-legged stool. Yes, environmental protection is paramount, but it needs to be affordable to be sustainable, and it needs to produce an acceptable outcome. There's no easy solution. Buying a Tesla, shopping at Whole Foods, or recycling your Starbucks paper cup doesn't solve the problem. We all have to do more. I'm personally dedicated and motivated to help define the ways to help maximize the positive benefits of urban landscaping while minimizing the negative impacts of the management and maintenance of it. We need to educate our profession and the consumers on what true sustainable landscaping is. To do so, we need to develop a workforce that is sustainably literate to help make sustainable changes and to educate the consumer on what is possible and what the trade-offs are. At OSU, I am working with the horticulture department to develop true sustainable solutions and educate the future of our profession on how to make substantive change. We call this sustainable urban horticulture. I've also been very proud to have the opportunity to give back to my profession with this movement through involvement of our state and national trade associations. Outside of landscape industries, I've also worked to serve our community throughout working with a variety of civic organizations, including the Washington County Chamber of Commerce. And I'm currently very involved with the Revitalize Portland Coalition, where we real estate leaders are working to help the Portland metro area reduce homelessness and the negative impacts it has had on our great city. Similar to helping create a sustainable future, solving the homeless problem is very complicated and takes way more than just creating affordable housing. There are no easy buttons here. I'm excited to help there and in landscaping, and go Bees.
When industry meets sustainability, we are all better for it. Bob, thank you for your leadership and your role modeling and all of the work that you're doing. Go Beavs.
To get us started with our conversation, I would like to first introduce Bob Grover, a 1983 graduate with a degree in horticulture, who was nominated by the College of Agricultural Sciences. In the 21 years since Bob started Pacific Landscape Management, his company has grown to become the Northwest's leader in commercial landscape management, providing sustainable maintenance and enhancement services in Portland, Salem, and Seattle. Grover served as the president of the National Association of Landscape Professionals, the Oregon Landscape Contractors Association, and as past chair of the Hillsborough Chamber of Commerce. He's a member of the Revitalize Portland Coalition and a supporter of OSU's Department of Horticulture.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's wonderful to see you all. Thanks for joining this discussion. We want to start the conversation asking each of you why your connection to OSU is important to you and how your time at OSU influenced your choice of career and the work you're doing now. Bob, how about you?
Well, really simple story. I grew up an Oregon kid, and if I was going to go to school in Oregon, it was going to be Oregon and Oregon State, and very interested in horticulture. And that was really my only choice. Really had a great time. Learned a lot, and it drove my passion for this profession.
Wonderful.
Bob, you have an award-winning sustainable landscaping company. What motivated you to build your business model around sustainable landscapes?
Well, it's interesting. When I started my career after college, I had a passion. I was an outdoors kid. I was maybe one of my only neighbor kids that had a garden as a teenager. But just loved the outdoors, and that drove me into this industry. And really, when I started in the industry in 1983, it was all about making the urban setting beautiful. And that's most of what my focus was early on in my career. And then I think really kind of a watershed moment was in around 2008 or so. And Al Gore wrote his book, An Inconvenient Truth. And that really brought the focus on environmental and sustainability to the forefront. And, prior to that, I didn't have any of my commercial clients really asking me anything about that. And then all of a sudden, that was the number one question. What are you doing to help me make my landscape more sustainable? And since that time, last 15 years, my profession in this industry has changed a lot. So it's still about making things beautiful, but we're now cleaning the air and processing water. And the landscape is doing a lot of very, very important things in the urban setting as well. So that's been really, really cool that our customers are asking for it and society is appreciating and understanding it. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of that process.
We want to talk next about a sort of unifying event that sort of illustrates the ways that humans interact with, take care of, and impact the landscapes and environments and water in our regions. Bob, what are some climate smart innovations you're working on now?
Well, that's, very interesting. As I talked about the change in what the landscape is doing for the urban environment, we're finding that rain gardens and bioswales and green streets are doing wonderful things and changing the way we design and install landscapes. But we're also finding that many of the tools that we utilize to maintain landscapes are also destructive to the environment. So the impact of using fossil fuels for all of our equipment has been a really, really big issue and concern for us. And luckily, technology is developing. We have converted a number of all of our larger equipment to propane. Now, propane still is emitting carbon, but it is less than fossil fuel. Battery technology is coming a long way, and we're very, very excited about where that's at. There's a lot of focus in the legislature. California has actually banned gas-powered small engine equipment starting next year. And we're hoping that Oregon will allow that technology to catch up. It's similar to the beginnings of the first Teslas were pretty darn expensive. So we're hoping that battery technologies come so far in the last 5-6 years that we believe that that's going to replace all small engines in the future. And then just, looking around everywhere we can on trying to reduce our utilization of whether it's gas-powered equipment or chemicals and fertilizers, of trying to be as responsible as we can. Again, the landscape is the most environmentally conscious piece of urban development, but how we maintain it needs to change, and we're working on that.
Oh, that's great. We have some battery operated landscape equipment, and it takes 2 full batteries just to mow the lawn. So I sympathize with why you want it to come a little farther before you adopt it at commercial scale.
Yeah, and you're not mowing all day long.
No, that's right. You'd need a whole truck bed of batteries to get you through a day. There's a lot of energy density in gasoline for sure.
Bill, if I may, since you brought up mowing lawns, can I maybe hijack the conversation a little bit and ask Julia and Bob, you both, we mentioned earlier that Julia, you're writing a book about grass, and Bob, I'm guessing that grass is a big part of your business. I'd just be really curious about, in the world we're at today, like what is the place? Is there a place for grass?
Well, Julia, on a higher level, but I would say yes. There's a lot of places where grass shouldn't be, and there's a lot of places where grass should be. I think it's the cheapest piece of landscape that you can install, because you can sprinkle some grass seed on the ground and you have a lawn. So it tends to be the de facto cheap way to get a landscape, but it's put in a lot of places where it's difficult to maintain and difficult to water and utilizes resource. So usable turf, athletic fields, really, really clearly. We find that bigger, wide open areas, it's good. Parking islands, parking strips where there's trees and rocks and curbs. So we're trying to encourage our customers to take out grass where it's difficult to irrigate and mow, and keep it where it's easier to maintain. A big field of grass is sequestering a lot of carbon. So that's my thoughts. One last thing on that, Kim. we are starting to encourage some of our customers to where we have rain for 9 months of the year and drought for 3 months of the year. Of do we need to spend all that water resource keeping it green for those 3 months? We have several projects that have big, large expanses of grass that are green for 9 or 10 months and they dry up, but they get green again with these perennial grasses. And that's the thought too. You don't have to irrigate everything. Grass will survive on its own.
Oh, grass will survive.
Grass will survive.
Tenacious stuff.
Yep. We just have to embrace culturally embrace the yellow for
Yes.
those few months.
We have to shape perception of what is an acceptable look. That's one of the pieces about sustainability, that it's a three-legged stool. It's got to be good for the environment. We got to be able to afford to be able to do it long-term, and it's got to be an acceptable output to the consumer. And I think a lot of times people forget about that, those two pieces. Sustainability is not just about being environmentally sensitive. You got to afford it, and your people got to like it. So we're working on that.
Well, on the topic of communities, Bob, we understand you enjoy volunteering your time and giving back to the communities that your business serves. Can you talk about why that's important to you?
I've questioned myself. I've been a passionate volunteer throughout my business career, and I really appreciate what I've gotten from Oregon State. I appreciate what I've gotten from the Hillsborough community. I appreciate what I've got from my profession. And as I've had the ability to volunteer outright or in leadership roles, it's been very, very rewarding for me to help give back to those organizations. And I think in the introduction, I'm former president of the National Association of Landscape Professionals, as well as the Oregon Landscape Contractors Association and the Chamber of Commerce. And it's just been very rewarding experiences to help work and shape the futures of those organizations, of those communities, and the relationships that I've been able to develop with great people in that. One thing that I would put a little bit of a plug in, I've gotten quite involved as the Portland metropolitan area, as with many larger communities around the United States, challenged with the current homeless crisis. And there's a great organization that I've gotten quite involved in, the Helping Hands Hope and Recovery Centers. They run the Bybee Lakes Hope Center, which is the old Multnomah County jail up in North Portland. Great organization that helps people recover from their issue and get back to self-sufficiency. We're working with that group to build, develop, or renovate a building in the Hillsborough, Washington County area to do the same thing out here. And just really, really excited about, times in my life I'll complain about what there is out there. And, you have those moments where so, well, somebody's got to do something or other. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? And I've just really, really been appreciating having the opportunity to do that, and really, really appreciate the involvement of the people that I've met through these organizations. Has just been tremendous. There's so many great people out there wanting to help, and we're all stepping forward.
We're here to recognize all of you as distinguished alumni fellows. And Bob, you're not just an alum and now a distinguished alum, but you also hire OSU alums. What is it that appeals to you about hiring OSU alums?
Well, another interesting development through my years in this profession. When I graduated in 1983, I went to work for, at the time, which was the largest landscape contractor in the Portland metropolitan area. I was the first Hort grad that company hired, and the industry was not that sophisticated. Did good work, but didn't use a lot of science in that. And over my career there, we hired several Oregon State grads, but in the 25 years that I've had Pacific Landscape Management, I now have on our staff 20 that have an advanced degree, an associate's or bachelor's degree, and very, very proud that there is 9 of us Beaver grads. I brag, and nobody's challenged me on this yet, that I believe that we have the largest number of OSU Hort grads on staff of any organization other than maybe Oregon State, and very, very proud of that. A great program to help us train and develop, and as Kim was saying, taking that
that science and applying it out there in the real world. And I'm very, very excited of all that. We continue to hire interns and graduates from a variety of universities, but Oregon State is closest to home and where we have the greatest connections.
And if I'm understanding your background photo, it looks like your company color is orange.
Yes, it is. It's kind of a funny story. The company that I worked for at a college was started and run by a couple of University of Oregon grads, and we drove around yellow pickups and had green uniforms. So, but we were very well known by those color combinations. And when I started my company 25 years ago, it's like, I need to be seen. Well, by gosh, orange is a great marketing color.
Indeed.
Thank you, Beavers.
So with commencement just around the corner, what advice do you have, all of you have for this year's graduates? Bob?
I think, and I even go back to when I graduated, I thought I knew it all, going into industry. And I was going to tell them, this is, what you're doing it wrong. We have to fix it. And there's a lot of things that I believe I did bring to the new organization, but there's also a lot of idealistic thought. And the biggest advice I would get is for people to be patient and make sure that you are understanding and learning the business that you're going into. And make sure that before you make suggestions for changes, you fully understand the perspective of how we got to where we're at and what we're doing. A lot of folks in my industry, one of the things that's I see many students of wanting to deal with climate change and sustainability issues through urban horticulture, and that's great. But some of the things that we do, we're challenging ourselves to fix, and the fix is not as easy. Again, our customers may not like the product or may not be able to pay for it. So trying to help people understand of let's fix it from the inside, but you got to learn how we're operating first.